Hey everybody, this is Matt and we're at Texas Toast Guitars. Thanks for watching. So the other day my friends John and Cheryl from Bitterroot Guitars asked me if I would make a couple of videos to explain how to install their double acting truss rods. And it occurred to me, you know what, this is a great opportunity for me to talk about one of my very favorite topics in the whole world, and that's adjustable truss rods. So I've decided to make a series of videos that will help you guys out, help you kind of figure out what sort of truss rods you want to use and how to put them in necks at your home shops. And yeah, so let's deep dive into this because this is going to be a super fun series. I've got a couple of visual aids here, and we're gonna deep dive into what exactly an adjustable truss rod is. Little bit of history, just a little bit. Don't tune out yet. And of course, there's a link in the description below to Bitterroot Guitars, and I want you to go over there and check them out. And if you use code TXTOAST at checkout, you get 15% off. What's cooler than that? All right, let's get started. Okay guys, the adjustable truss rod certainly isn't anything new. This is an example of a style of truss rod used in, say, a Gibson Les Paul. It's been around for so long that there's a lot of myths and a lot of untruths floating around about what an adjustable truss rod is and what it does and what it's supposed to do. And so let's go ahead and start with this. The purpose of these videos, by the way, is to try to convince you to move away from this style of rod and move towards something like this. But we're going to get to that. So yeah, so the original adjustable style truss rod that was and is still used in many guitars, like we already said, the Gibson Les Paul or even the Fender Telecaster or Stratocaster, is generally speaking a one-piece 3/16 rod with a stop on one end. In this case, it's looks like a 3/8 piece of round stock, and the as you can see, the 3/16 rod has been threaded through there and peened over so that it can't move on this 3/8 block. On the other end, there are some 1032 threads and a brass nut, as well as, in this case, this is for a Les Paul, there is a toothed half washer here, and you're going to see what that is for here in a moment. So I have this kind of neck surrogate here. On one end, it's got the area where the brass nut is going to go, and a slot for the rod to travel, but I left this middle section open so that you guys could see what a truss rod does. Now, what you would do on this style of rod is you would push the this 3/8 bar stock in, or round stock, into the its groove here, and you'd make the toothed washer go to its spot, and then you would tighten this up, and the toothed washer would stay. It would bite into the neck there, and you just tighten the old brass nut, and the truss rod is more or less ready to go, right? Well, not quite. Because as you can imagine, if you loosen this nut, the only thing that happens is the nut gets loose, okay? And if you tighten it, you can imagine that all it's going to do is tighten the brass nut onto the toothed washer and essentially compress the wood fibers from here to here. Okay, let me get this in the picture. From the nut end, it's going to tighten here, and it's going to go all the way to the stop end and tighten there and compress everything in between. So if you know what's going on here, that's not going to counteract the string tension. It's not going to hold the neck in a position. It's just going to make it compressed right through here. So the way that you would get this to work is you would need to put this truss rod in at an angle, or in a curve. Okay, it's got to look like a smiley face, like this. Okay, it absolutely has to be that way, and then you have to backfill with a piece that holds it in this position. Okay, so the slot needs to be in an arch, and you need to press this down in the same arch, and then you need to backfill with a piece of wood so that it is locked into that arch position. Now, as you tighten this rod, you can actually feel it trying to straighten. Okay, and that presses up on the back filled in piece, and that is going to hold your neck counter to the tension of the strings. Okay, so there are a lot of people who think that this is just this is the hot setup rod because you just plop it in there and boom, it's done, and you hardly have any wood gone. The fact of the matter is this is a difficult rod to install correctly, and the amount of movement and holding that you get is it's not insignificant, but it's not nearly as good as with a modern style rod. Now, one other thing, it only works in one direction. That is to say, it only pushes up. So, and as soon as you start to compress this area here, you can in fact run out of adjustment and you can run out of travel. So this rod is good, but the rods that I want to talk about are superior in every way. Says me. All right, so I got a new camera angle here. I'm thinking this is going to be very, very easy to see. I also have a new surrogate neck here, and I have a couple of truss rods from John and Cheryl at Bitterroot Guitars. These are the truss rods that I use all the time, because they meet all of the needs that I have for a truss rod. They work, they're strong, they're affordable, and they're easy to install. So let's just jump in here. You can see that there's some outward differences that you will notice right away. One is that this rod has the heat shrink tubing over the entire piece. This one here just has the heat shrink over the active rod, the 3/16 round stock, and the 1/4 inch bar stock is left unexposed. But I assure you that these are essentially the same thing on the inside of the heat shrink tubing. But there are a handful of other differences. One is this sleeve here. The adjustment nut is inside the sleeve. Okay, so when you rotate the adjustment nut, the sleeve doesn't move. I happen to like that. This one here, the adjustment nut is easier to locate, and the adjustment nut moves when you move the wrench. So, you know, 6 of one, half dozen the other. You guys got to figure out the stuff that you like. Don't just take my word for it. Get the one that you like. Give them both a try. There's one other difference when we're talking about these rods, and I'm going to show you that now. Let's start with this rod where the active, the 3/16 active round stock is the only thing that is covered in the heat shrink tubing here. We'll just slide this in, and the cool thing about this, you guys, both of these rods just require a flat slot. So unlike the original adjustable rods, you don't have to have a curved slot. You can have a flat slot, and it's super cool. So it's easy to do, and I'm going to show you that here coming up in future videos. So I've got the rod is mounted in my kind of surrogate neck, so you can see what's going on. I'm going to move the we're going to start here with the adjustment wrench pointing up, and I'm going to move this 1/4 of a turn or a 1/2 of a turn, let's say, to the away from me. I'm going to show you what it looks like. Okay, so that's a 1/2 turn actually. So you can see what's happening is the bar stock is moving. It's getting higher here and lower here. This is something that's important to remember. Unlike the original rod that only works in one place, these double acting rods work in a couple places. In the center and on the ends. So I realize that's 3 places, but you get what I'm driving at. The other neat thing about this double acting rod is it works the other way. So let's go ahead and return the rod to neutral, and let's turn it 1/2 of a turn the opposite direction, and I want you guys to see what's going to happen there. Okay, as you can see now, what's happening is the round rod is moving and is making a smiley face. Okay, So you can push on the middle of the neck in the up position and in the down position, and with these rods, and that makes it very, very handy. So the reason that these adjustment nuts are welded on this end is so that the adjustment nut doesn't just come off. Okay, so like on a vintage style rod, I want to go off here. On a vintage style rod, if you were to unscrew the adjustment nut, it would just come all the way off. Okay, all right. So that's the rod with the heat shrink on just the 3/16 round stock. Let's go ahead and slide in the one with the heat shrink over the whole rod. Now, the only difference is between, like I said, between this rod and this rod is one, the adjustment nut is hidden in the sleeve here. But there's a hidden difference that you probably already know. So as I move the adjustment rod, you will see that the whole every part of the rod moves in unison together. That's because they're heat shrinked together. If I were to pull this heat shrink off, it would do the exact same thing as this rod. Okay. So, and then you'll notice that when I go back the other direction, both rods move simultaneously. Okay, that's really the biggest difference there. Now, what is the advantage of one over the other? I don't know. I don't know that there is one, and I will use them interchangeably. This is the rod that I like, but I want you guys to try them both out and see which ones you like the best too. Yeah, so this is a very classic style of truss rod, but I think that you will see this a lot more. So both of these style rods come in all different lengths. Here's a shorty, here's a medium-y, and here's a long one. These are all the same. These are all the same style rod, but as you can see, they are different lengths. So like if you have a bass, or if you have a guitar, or if you have, I don't know, a mandolin or something. Whoa, this is probably a little too long for a mandolin, but something in the like 16-inch scale, maybe something like that. And of course, the other style rods come in different lengths too. So any length that you need, you guys, you can pretty much get it from John and Cheryl at Bitterroot. Okay, and they all install exactly the same way, flat slot, and so yeah, let's see here. So let's say we could put this bass guy in here, and okay, and we can put this guitar guy in here. Voila. All right, gang, so now that we've talked a little bit about these truss rods, I want to show you how to install one of them. Now, I am going to use my pin router to install these, not because I think you have a pin router at your house, but because I want you to see how easy it is to just plop these in there, how easy the slot has to be, and you just kind of drop it in and that's it. So in future videos though, I'm going to show you some neat tricks how you can do this at home with with a regular router table or a regular router, and I've got a couple of tricks up my sleeve, some neat tools that I think you're going to really dig, and we're going to get to that though in future videos. But let's jump over to the pin router. I'm going to plop one of these rods into a neck, and you'll see how easy it is, and you'll probably get some ideas how you can do it at your place too. So away we go. Okay guys, here we are in front of my pin router, and I have a neck here. This is, as you can see, a Fender style neck that we are building, and it doesn't have a truss rod slot in it, so I have to put one in there. Now, don't get ahead of me, because I know what some of you guys are thinking. Well, it would have been easier if it was a square. Kinda. Don't jump ahead now. We're going to get to all that stuff in future videos. I just want to show you how I do it so you can see how easy the slot is to, to just take the truss rod and plop it in. Only it's like this. Plop it in there. And you guys will probably come up with a bunch of new ideas that I haven't even thought of how you can do this with if you don't have a pin router at your shop. But I want to show you again how easy this is going to be. Like I say, in future videos, we'll start with a square, and we'll use some tools that I know you guys have. I like to do this because the chances of the truss rod slot going south are very, very slim these days. But you know, when you start routing around stuff like this, that gets tricky and you can get tear out. So I always like to make sure the necks are good to go before I put the slots in. That's just me. You guys will come up with your own solutions to how to put truss rods in your shop. All right, so I'm going to show you real quick using the pin router. I've got a 1/4 inch pin in my pin router. I'm going to get my danger glasses here. This is the sled that we will be mounting the neck to, and if you watched any of my videos, you know how the pin router works. There is the guide is actually built into the sled here, and the pin rides inside this slot, okay? I'm gonna show you a different angle so you can see what I'm talking about. But remember, this is less about the pin router and more about how easy the slot is and how flat the slot is. And we're gonna come up with lots of good ways to do this, all right? Okay guys, so here's the pin, and the pin has the same center as the cutting bit, okay? And the pin is going to follow this slot right here. So we're gonna go ahead and put the sled on the pin. As you can see, it doesn't really move that way. It only is allowed to move fore and aft. We're going to lock the neck into the sled here, and we're going to clamp it down. Now, guys, I make a lot of necks, so it behooves me to have tools and tooling that work quickly and fast, okay? Now, I'm not suggesting that you need to have this kind of thing at your shop, especially if you're only making a few necks a year, but this does work really, really well for me, okay? All right, so we are going to cut a slot that is flat on the bottom for this truss rod. And again, we're going to be using a 1/4 inch bit, and we're going to be using the pin router, and it's going to be so easy and go so fast, it's just going to be faster for me to do it rather than explain how to do it. Well, it's a good thing I decided to wear black today. I'm all covered with man glitter. Hey, that's sort of the life of a luthier, right? So this is what your truss rod slot will look like. It's just flat on the bottom, and it's a little deeper here so that you can accommodate for the little adjustment nut there. So yeah, it's a really straightforward thing to do, and these truss rods work like $1,000,000. We've never had a problem with one, and they move the neck and hold the neck like a truss rod ought to. So remember, we're going to be doing a bunch of these videos about truss rods for our good friends John and Cheryl at Bitterroot Guitars. We hope that you guys watch them and get some ideas as well. In the future videos, we're going to be taking a look at how to install a truss rod in a neck with a router table. And then we're gonna use a special tool and a regular handheld router. That's gonna be coming up in the 3rd installment of the video series. So guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video. Please check out our friends at Bitterroot Guitars, link in the description below. And if you like the video, give me the thumbs up, stuff like that. So this is Matt at Texas Toast reminding you that if you're so smart, build it yourself. That's what I do. Thanks for watching, you guys. We'll see you next time.
I wanna play my guitar the only way